On November 9, 1989, the Berlin Wall came tumbling down, opening up a new chapter in world history. But what actually happened on that day? Let's rewind. After World War II, Germany found itself divided. The western part became a democratic state backed by the US, Britain, and France, while the eastern part fell under Soviet influence, becoming a communist state. And since Berlin was located deep within the Soviet-controlled East, it too was divided into East and West sections. In 1961, the communist East German government, backed by the Soviets, erected the Berlin Wall to stop its citizens from fleeing to the West. The wall became a potent symbol of the Cold War, a stark visual reminder of the ideological battle between capitalism and communism. It was also a brutal instrument of oppression. Was caught trying to cross the heavily guarded frontier were often beaten or shot. However, by the late 1980s, the communist regimes in Eastern Europe were under pressure. Economic stagnation, widespread dissatisfaction with one-party rule, and the reforms introduced by Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, particularly glasnost and perestroika, created a climate of openness and restructuring that emboldened reform movements across the region. On November 4, 1989, over 500,000 people marched on East Berlin in one of the largest peaceful protests in East Germany's history. They demanded the resignation of the East German leadership and an end to the repressive policies that had curtailed their freedoms. Faced with growing unrest, the East German government announced on November 9th that citizens would be allowed to cross the border freely. The announcement came as a shock. Government officials, including a man named Gunter Schabowski, who was supposed to brief the press on the new regulations, were caught off guard. When asked when these new rules would take effect, he mistakenly said, "It's effective immediately." Within hours, crowds had gathered at the checkpoints along the Berlin Wall, demanding to be let through. The border guards, who had expected no more than a symbolic gesture that would allow a few people to cross, were quickly overwhelmed. They opened the gates and the crowds poured through. Within minutes, thousands of East and West Berliners were hugging and celebrating at the wall. Soon, people were scaling the wall, chipping it away with hammers and chisels, turning it into a rubble-strewn testament to their newfound freedom. The fall of the Berlin Wall was a pivotal moment in world history. It marked the beginning of the end for the Cold War. Within a year, East and West Germany were reunited on October 3, 1990. Other communist regimes in Eastern Europe were toppled or forced to liberalize. Leading to the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, the wall's fall symbolized the triumph of democratic ideals and market economies over authoritarianism and central planning. It ushered in an era of globalization and unity, setting the stage for the post-Cold War world order. Today, the Berlin Wall Memorial reminds us of the extraordinary courage of those who fought for freedom and the enduring power of peaceful resistance.